Hey there, friends. This is Bill MacDonald, the reading and writing doctor. One of the things that the MacDonald family, especially the guys and my dad, have been famous for is exaggerating. When we want to impress people with something like golf, we'll say we hit the drive 400 yards, and there's not even very many professionals that can do that. Or we caught a fish that was as long as the boat. Or if we're trying to complain and keep it on the opposite end, hyperbole, exaggerating, EX goes to extremes, either one way or the other, to two opposite extremes that you're either getting way too little of something or way too much. So one of the questions that I put in my poem for practice is a question about hyperbole, another word for exaggeration, and it's a type of figurative language. So I went ahead and made a copy of my writing folder so you could see the examples of figurative language, specifically hyperbole, and also of my poster that's in my writing binder, so that those of you that have it can practice asking questions. But the way I did it was about a fourth of the questions on reading, math, social studies, and science are going to be some sort of constructed type, short answer, extended, or essay response question. So I went ahead and left this one open-ended. And so the one that it's going to be focusing on is when there's more than one correct answer. So it's going to be asking about hyperbole that can be found on two different lines. So before I practice a little bit of hyperbole with you using my poster and my writing folder, I wanted to show you the question. Then I wanted to show you very quickly all the different constructed type responses that are reading only from the folder for those of you that have that. That way you can use it and be very effective with it. Let me share my screen. So on the advanced ELAR writing folder, English Language Arts reading writing folder, on the upper left-hand portion, you're going to see how to get a 1 with regular multiple choice, which is this first little square. If it's paper and pencil, then it'll still be E, A, B, C, D for odd numbers and F, G, H, J for even. And I've been told by several people that the online test, they're going with A, B, C, D only, whether it's even or odd. And I asked somebody from TEA about that, and they did confirm that they're making it very difficult for the student to click the wrong answer by the way the test is designed. So the question that is going to be constructed, I went ahead and for the reading base, the one that they said that could be given reading, I went ahead and drew a red line so that you would know that numbers 2 through 7 can only be given in reading. They could also be given in math or social studies or science, but I noticed that none of the ones from 8 through 11 were written as possible constructed responses for reading-based questions. So if you look at number 6, it says multi-select more than one correct answer per question. So what I did, number 7 in my little poem that we've been going over the last couple of days says, which two lines, in the poem use hyperbole to emphasize different senses? And so remind your students, if there's a word they don't know, they're allowed to look up the word hyperbole in the dictionary to find out what it means. And it'll say something about exaggeration, either over or under exaggerating. They might not know the word emphasis, to emphasize something, to focus on something, the different senses. And it says here constructed response. So when it's online, basically the students will have to pick, if it does have an A, B, C, D, then the kids are going to have to select the 2 lines that are correct. Sometimes it might be from a drop down menu, and sometimes it might be already there and they have to click 2 or perhaps 3 responses. I would imagine that it would just be 2 correct responses in most cases. Another one is for figurative language, draw a picture of the idiom expressed in stanza 5 in the box provided below. So even though one of the constructed responses is a graph, or I just thought your kids would enjoy being able to draw what the idiom type of figurative language would look like. So what we'll do is kill 2 birds with 1 stone idiom. We'll look at hyperboles and we'll look at idioms so that we could answer these 2 questions at the same time. So just a brief overview. On the bottom half of the writing folder, there's a list of hyperboles. Some of them could be perceived as idioms, like I would say we died laughing could technically be an idiom, because I always tell my kids only an idiot would believe that you actually died because you were laughing. Unfortunately, some people have died because they kind of lose complete control. They laugh so much to the extreme that they died. Now, what you could practice with some of these hyperboles is the opposite extreme. I'm so hungry, I could eat a horse. I'm so full that blah, blah, blah. This book weighs a ton. This book is lighter than a feather. I could sleep for a year. I haven't slept in a year. I thought I would die of embarrassment. I don't think you're going to get that embarrassed. So the opposite of embarrassed is proud. So I was so proud. I was as tall as a mountain. So I would just come up with something that would be the opposite extreme to kind of help the kids. And then because you're going to want to practice idioms as well, the lower right-hand portion has the idiom, and then it tells you what it literally means right next to it. So it's just a nice list to access so that your kids can be learning all the different types of figurative language. The only one that I don't have here is alliteration. You can practice dialogue as well, but that's not a type of figurative language. And then inside my binder, there's a few that I have with pictures. If you go to page 468 of the binder, there's some more hyperboles. You have 1 million toys at your house. You don't have any. I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Remember that one? He cried so long he made a lake. He's never cried in his entire life. Everybody's cried at least once. I must have walked 100 miles. I can't even walk a step. What I'm doing is the opposite. I'm 20 feet tall this month. I feel 2 inches tall right now. Sometimes because you say or do something you regret, you kind of feel small or want to feel small. I'm so tired. I could sleep a year. I'm so excited. I haven't slept in a year. That boy can run faster than a car. That boy walks slower than a turtle. My food was so hot, my ears were smoking. That food was so cold, icicles were falling off of it. My dad can lift over 2 tons. My dad can't even lift his empty hands up in the air. The king's nose was 3 feet long. The king's nose was so short I couldn't even see it. Of course, you can see everybody's nose. So those are some examples of 2 extremes of hyperbole. And the binder also in that same 6 pages page section has all 1 page dedicated to each of the 6 figurative languages that you can see in the folder. So what I would recommend that you do is, as you're reading passages with your kids or selections, have a little contest where the kids can win tickets or prizes. They can say, whenever they get to a figurative expression, they can say idiom, automatopoeia, metaphor, and then you can write their name or their number on a ticket. And once a week or once a month or once a year, if you're really poor, you can have a little raffle where you pull out a ticket and the winner wins a prize for either reading and finding figurative language or writing and using figurative language. So let's go back to our question. 2 lines that use hyperbole, exaggerating for the different senses. And we'll go to the poem. And that means we're gonna have to just read line by line until we can see some exaggeration. A loud noise, very loud noise. They didn't do an extreme. Coming from my microwave, that's aware. When the contents of my little bag turn from seeds to popcorn, 1,000,000 explosions. Well, since there's only about maybe several hundred kernels of popcorn inside a bag, I think 1,000,000 explosions would be an exaggeration. So if I was to draw a picture of that, then you would just have little pops, little explosion, little symbols going everywhere. So your first hyperbole would be on 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The part that has the hyperbole is 1,000,000 explosions. A lot of explosions could happen in 90 seconds. So if you're going to say 1 line, the hyperbolic expression is on 6, 7, 8, 9. On line 10 is one of them that you could write in. So we don't forget, we'll write that down. My pen's wearing out. I guess my pen's wanting to go on spring break. Okay, line 10. And of course, when you're doing online, you would be typing the response or you'd be clicking on the response. Let's keep looking for another hyperbole. So 1,000,000 explosions. Let's check. Does that use the senses? Yes, I would be able to hear those explosions. When I take it out and pour it into my bowl, it's so hot that my fingers are burning. That could be hyperbole. So 12, 13, 14, 15. But because burning is something that literally could happen, I'm going to keep going and see if I can find something that's an over or under exaggeration before I go with that. And so, of course, you would say fingers burning. That's the answer. Line 12, 13, 14, line 15. But let's check and see if there's anything else that's an extreme exaggeration. My fingers are burning. I can barely touch it without shouting out what they shout. The amazing aroma. A gallon of delicious Parmesan cheese. Now, I don't think using a gallon of Parmesan cheese on the butter would be the correct quantity. So that would be a little bit too much. That would be like putting a little burger on your ketchup when you're supposed to be putting a little ketchup on your burger. So I would probably say between the two of them, that could be literally happening, that your fingers could be burning, but I don't think that you would use a gallon of Parmesan cheese on top of some popcorn. So line 23 would be the other one. Let's see if we can get the pen to work this time. There we go. So line 10 and line 23, and then you could have the kids the gallon of cheese, and without looking back, let me see if, oh, a million explosions. So if we were to look at stanza 5, let's look for an idiom. And I don't mean to be inappropriate, but you just tell your kids it has all of the letters of the word idiot, but one letter. So an example would be, you kids are driving me up the wall. That's an idiom because you're not gonna go look at a wall and find somebody driving up it. So if you were to write this inside the box, you could write, you kids are driving me up the wall, and then a picture of a teacher or parent actually driving up this wall in a car. And then the literal expression could be, your kids are driving me crazy. So let's go look at stanza 5. That's our keyword. We're looking for an expression that, what type? An idiom, and we could label that FL for figurative language. So let's count our stanzas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's see if we can find something. The amazing aroma of the extra butter and the gallon of delicious Parmesan cheese fills the entire room from ceiling to floor and is bouncing off the walls. So I don't think that a smell of something could be bouncing off walls. So because the popcorn, the smell is attached to the popcorn, you would probably have to draw a picture of different popcorns, and you could kind of draw some little arrows of the popcorn moving around. So it would possibly look something, and I don't claim to be an artist, but I would probably draw what looks like a popcorn. It looks more like a flower. And I would possibly draw an arrow. Popcorn, the aroma. So it's just not the popcorn itself, but the aroma is just bouncing off the walls. And probably because it has to do with smell, I would draw like a little nose there. So basically the aroma is like hitting me from all directions. And you can kind of talk to your kids about the old pinball machines that we used to play when we were kids as adults, that they don't have too many of them anymore. And it was also one of the first video games where you would play table tennis with that. All you would do is just turn the little dial left and right, and it would move your little tiny bar up and down so that you could hit the bouncing, moving little dot back and forth, and you could speed it up and slow it down. So it would look something like that. So you would, the literal expression would be just the aroma is spreading throughout the room. It's not literally bouncing off the walls. So there's my idea on figurative language using hyperbole and idioms. And for an extension, you might have the kids use one of the ones from my folder or the poster, the little mini poster, to come up with an example. What situation might you write something like that? So with that in mind, if I were to pick one from the folder, which many of you have. I'll just close by doing that for you or with you. Hyperbole. Let me see. I didn't do some of these down here. Molly ran as fast as a bullet. Josh was so tall he could reach up and touch the clouds. Sally was so skinny, I can see right through her. He plays his guitar so fast, his fingers are on fire. I laughed so hard, my face fell off. So playing really fast, laughing so hard. The fish I caught was bigger than a skyscraper. I'll use the one, Josh was so tall he could reach up and touch the clouds. A lot of times in certain sports, your height helps you excel in that sport. And the one that comes to mind the most is in basketball. And so you could make a reference to basketball where Josh might barely have to jump up in the air and be able to dunk a ball on a 10-foot rim because possibly Josh is 6 feet something or 7 feet something. There are some 7-foot basketball players out there. So then you could ask them, okay, can you name any 7-foot basketball players in real life? You know, but I don't think that those basketball players could touch the clouds from the ground. So there you have it. Practicing hyperbole and idioms for figurative language, using the short constructed responses. Drawing a picture was just for fun, but more than one correct answer was the one that we were practicing today. So hope you have a great spring break and that you get to sleep 1,000,000 hours, even though in 7 weeks, I think we only get like 168 hours, if I can't remember now. 24 times 7, 7 times 4 is 28. The 8 part is right. 7 times 2 is 14. Yes, 168 hours. So I hope you get to sleep 1,000,000 hours and that you have a trillion laughs with friends and family. God bless and take care. If you are a reading teacher that's working on figurative language right now, you might want to share or tag your reading teacher friends with this one.